So, on the next day, I actually infused again. And this is actually a picture of me infusing on our tent at Kilimanjaro. This is up close to 15,000 feet, or 14,000 feet. So, imagine infusing on the top of, one of the highest mountains here in Colorado. And then this is Dave and I walking up to our final camp before the summit day. It's called Barafu Camp, and it's actually up on this ledge up here. And it's all these tents just sitting on this really steep ledge because it's the best place to kind of go for the summit the next day. It is absolutely beautiful. So at about midnight on day 6, we woke up and left our tents. It's supposed to take about 7 hours to go for the summit. You go up about 5,000 feet. And so we walk. I wish I had pictures, but it's pitch black out and quite boring. But so we hiked for about 2 hours up a really steep face, and our guides kept asking us, "Do you need a break? Do you need a break?" And me and Dave were like, "No, we're just going to keep going. We feel good." And it's really not very glamorous. You think, oh, hiking, top of Kilimanjaro. You're just sitting there looking down at your feet because there's nothing to look at. Looking at your headlamp, a couple of steps in front of you, just walking for hours and hours and hours. And then about 4 hours into it, our guides asked us if we wanted a break again. No, we're doing good. And then Julius turns to us and says, well, we probably need to take one because if you guys keep going at this pace, you're going to get to the summit well before sunrise and you won't be able to see anything. We're like, oh, all right, I guess we can take a little break. And sure enough, after 6 hours of climbing and not taking enough breaks, we reached the summit at 6 o'clock in the morning on June 3rd in the pitch black. And this is about all you can see is the sign at the top of Kilimanjaro. But it was a really crazy feeling when you're walking up in the pitch black and then this sign comes out of nowhere. And all I kept thinking was, how lucky am I that I can hike to the top of this peak, in Africa, when, just a few miles away from here, there are people with hemophilia that can barely walk, that are just trying to live. And I just kind of had this overwhelming, kind of guilty feeling while I was standing there. And I really didn't know what to think. I kind of struggled with that for a little while. But I still did enjoy being on the summit, but that was in the back of my mind the entire time. So, after that experience, I thought, what else can I do to help these people in the developing countries? So, the plan I came up with Lori Kelly as well is I'm going to try and do some more of these climbs to help raise money for these people. So the goal now is to try and do the 7 summits and be the first person with hemophilia to climb the 7 summits, which are the highest mountain on each continent. And with the Kilimanjaro climb, we raised $66,000 for projects in Africa. And that's going to be for camps in Africa, for clinics in Africa. Just going out into the country to try and find these people with hemophilia in these small villages, and bring awareness to hemophilia. So I said, $66,000 for Kilimanjaro. Imagine how much we can do with more climbs like this. So that's my new goal, and hopefully that'll start in January. I know my mom's not too excited about it, but that's the plan. So, and then if you guys ever want to follow that adventure, I have a blog about all of this. So blog. That's it. That's my African. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions?
Does anybody have any questions? for Bomb?
How was the weather?
On Killer, it was cold. It was about 2 degrees Fahrenheit at the summit. Yeah, yeah. It was. So we actually went to like take a drink at the summit from our water bottles, and mine were both frozen solid. So I was like, well, guess I don't need water right now.
I guess probably I got a little bit confused when you said that there were going to be 10 people, and then you included yourself, and then your uncle. But at this particular hike, was it only your uncle and yourself?
Yeah, so for the Save One Life fundraiser, there was 11 people that were doing the fundraiser, but the other 10 were going in August. So on this trip, it was just me and my uncle, and he didn't do the fundraising part, but so it was just me and my uncle and the guides.
So the money, the $66,000 dollar amount,
Yeah.
was that all together?
Yeah, that was all together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the other 10
Right. Yeah.
individuals.
Yeah. The 11 of us raised 66,000.
Oh, okay. And so now, there was your uncle and yourself, and then you said 11 orders?
Yeah. Yeah.
For the two of you?
For the two of us. It was crazy. It was strange. It was really strange.
Yeah, you didn't carry anything up.
I had a little day pack on with water and clothes.
I feel bad.
I felt, yeah, it was strange. I was like, we even tried to set up our tents one day, and they're like, no, that's our job. You're supposed to relax. I was like,
Wow.
They wouldn't let you carry things, but we had good food all the way up. They carried fresh fruit all the way up. It was strange. Very strange. Yeah.
Chris, I was curious, you said there was a road that was lower than the 19,000 foot area. Do some people go up the road and start from there?
There's a road to the 12,000 foot camp. It's called Shearer Camp. And they don't recommend that. They recommend you climb it because it helps with the acclimation process. If you start too high and then go for it, you can have some really bad consequences. Yeah.
What's the next summit?
Hopefully in January it's Aconcagua in Argentina. Yeah.
So I saw on Facebook from this Africa trip,
Yeah.
Stephen. Is that the Stephen that
Steven. Yeah.
the boy? So you saw him again this
Yeah,
trip?
yeah, Stephen, yeah. He came
Okay.
back to the clinic this year. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and he's doing much better.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And have you talked to Jorge about Aconcagua?
I have talked to Jorge about Aconcagua, yeah. So Dr. DePaula, I don't know if all of you know him. He actually used to be a guide on Aconcagua in Argentina. So
And that's how he funded his way through medical school. Summer he would guide.
yeah, he's a guide on Aconcagua. So I've talked to him several times about it.
Where do they get Factor?
So all the factor they get is expired factor or donated factor from there's factor's too expensive for them, for pretty much everybody there.
Is there organizations here in the States that you can donate your?
Yeah, expired factor you can send to Project Share. It's I don't have like the website or anything, but if you just Google Project Share, there's that's another group that Lori Kelly runs, and they just take expired factor and send it to all these different places when people need it. It's really good place, good thing. But yeah, that's everything is treated by expired factor.
Do you know if you're working, or are you working along with the World Hemophilia Federation to do some sort of factor sharing and stuff to those developing countries?
I'm not sure about World Hemophilia
Yeah,
Federation.
the twinning program is through World.
The twinning
so
program,
the
yeah.
program that went to Kenya in the first place is a
Was
program
through
of
them.
World.
Yeah.
So somewhat they're getting some of that factor.
Right.
Yeah.
Some of that factor, came from Indiana's HTC. They have expired factor that they brought.
And to put the community in perspective, the director of that center, Amy Shapiro, was a fellow here, trained here, worked on that same coagulometer that she then asked us to bring over and train over in Africa. And actually, she did work in our lab too. So it just kind of shows that this is one big family worldwide.
Awesome.
Erin?
You can bring your expired factor to the treatment center and we can get it to Project Share. So that's probably an easier way to
We
do it.
also have trained fellows who are working as hemophilia doctors in India and in Thailand. And we periodically, when we have some factors, sent it to them to treat their patients too.
Yeah.
Since you've been there, how many patients have you helped?
That's hard to say an exact number, but for this trip, we had about 100 people with hemophilia that came to this clinic, and at least gave them like a factor level. And then they were seen this year. They did a comprehensive clinic. So a doctor saw them, a nurse practitioner saw them, a physical therapist saw them, and just kind of gave them a little bit of awareness and knowledge about what they even have, because most of them didn't even know. They just knew the name, they knew it was hemophilia, but they knew virtually nothing else about it.
So there's a permanent center there now with permanent people?
It's getting there. There's one full-time doc there that does hemophilia, and then he has people that he works with that help. But it's getting there. It's getting a lot better. It's amazing. And in 2 years, I mean, we went from last year just really getting a good factor level on 3 people to this year on 100 people.
Is this the first center in Africa or just that area?
Just that area, just in East Africa. I think in South Africa, there's a pretty good hemophilia. There's pretty decent hemophilia care there, but East Africa, there's nothing. There's really nothing.
What kind of a radius did you draw from for those 100 people?
Mostly it was from around Nairobi, so the big metropolis there, and then around Eldoret, which is in western Kenya. A smaller radius there, probably only like 25 miles away.
So very small.
Yeah, I mean, there's supposedly there should be about 4,000 people in Kenya with hemophilia, and we've maybe identified like 250 of them. So it's got a long way to go, but it's getting there.
Which third world country has the worst care for hemophilia?
What's that?
Do you know which third world country has the worst care for hemophilia?
I don't know that. With talking to Lori about Zimbabwe, she said when they have beneficiaries there in Zimbabwe, it's basically that money just keeps them alive. In other countries like Kenya and India, that money is trying to help them like get educated so they can have a job and things like that. But in Zimbabwe, they just try and get them to live, and it's not going great there. So, but I don't know as far as who has the worst care.
There's information about Save One Life at the registration table. And are you going to be here all day?
I'm going to hear you most of the day.
Most of the day, yeah. So you can go and ask Chris.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, no problem.